Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video. Today let us discuss about accounting standard 16 that is related to borrowing costs. See, normally speaking, borrowing cost is nothing but interest. Of course, for our practical application in terms of problem solving also it will be interest only. But as per this standard, borrowing costs not only include interest, there are other things also which may also be called as borrowing costs according to accounting standard 16. This can be a theoretical question. What are borrowing costs according to AS 16? Of course, interest, yes, that is basic borrowing cost, everybody knows. But there are other things also, like what? Commitment charges on the bank borrowings and other short-term and long-term borrowings. So interest and commitment charges on the borrowings, whether they are bank borrowings or whether they are short-term borrowings or long-term borrowings. Simply speaking, first point is interest and commitment charges. That is borrowing costs. Second, amortization of discounts or premiums related to borrowings. There may be discount or premium that might be given while issuing debt instruments, something like bonds or debentures, let us say. That amortization of discounts or premiums also is considered as borrowing cost. For example, certain types of bonds, like zero coupon bonds, for example, will not have any interest periodically, but still they are issued at a very low price or at a deep discount. That discount will be amortized over the period of the life of that bond. Then what is the nature of that amortization of such discount? That is nothing but interest. So essentially that is also considered as borrowing cost. If it is premium, it will reduce the borrowing cost. If it is discount, that is a borrowing cost that will be treated as an expenditure. Then, not only that, interest, commitment charges, premium or discount, but also ancillary costs. Ancillary costs which are incurred in connection with the arrangement of the borrowings. Sometimes there may be certain things like arrangement fees or loan facilitation fees charged by the banks or some other, we can say, financial supporters, popularly called as the agents between the borrower and lender. They may charge such kind of costs. If those things are charged off to the P&L when they are incurred, then that's fine. That is done already, that is also a borrowing cost. But even if that is amortized over a period of time, then each year it will be considered as borrowing cost. So simply speaking, borrowing cost as such is not a big deal. It is interest, and normally interest is revenue expenditure. Normally it will be charged to the P&L account, debit side, and all these things are also same. There is nothing special treatment for any of them. Only thing is they are arising from different circumstances. Then finance charges in respect of the assets which are acquired under finance lease. So finance lease is something that will be defined in accounting standard 19. We can discuss that then when we discuss about accounting standard 19 related to leases. So whatever that finance lease may be, doesn't matter. But what about the interest which is there as part of the arrangement called finance lease? Is it not a borrowing cost? Of course, yes. So the finance charges in relation to the assets which have been acquired under finance leases or any other similar arrangements is also a borrowing cost. Then not only that, this last point is important. We can have a question on that. Exchange differences arising from foreign currency borrowings. To the extent they are regarded as adjustment to interest cost. Not the entire exchange differences. Exchange differences from foreign currency borrowings is dealt with in accounting standard 11. But to the extent they are regarded as an adjustment to interest cost was an exclusion to accounting standard 11, if you remember, because that was supposed to be dealt in accounting standard 16. That is where now it is being covered. If there are any exchange differences arising from the foreign currency borrowings, to the extent they are regarded as an adjustment to interest cost, exchange differences related to the principal amount of borrowing is not covered by AS 16. AS 16 is only talking about interest or borrowing costs. To that extent only, that is definitely covered by AS 16. Principal amount also might have exchange differences. How to deal with those exchange differences? We will already have discussed under accounting standard 11. That is related to foreign currency fluctuations and their impact on the financial statements of the organizations. So that is different. Here what we are talking about is, to the extent such exchange differences are related to the interest costs. That is another point that AS 16 covers. Specifically in this particular AS 16, definitely there is a possibility of questions from that area, which is a special area. And most importantly, because it covers two standards at one shot, AS 11 and 16, that can be also a popular question. We'll come to that area during the discussion related to this accounting standard 16. But other than that, remaining things are all pretty straightforward. Simply interest costs, whether they are arising from bank borrowings or other short-term or long-term borrowings, including the arrangement fees like ancillary costs incurred while getting those loans or borrowings arranged, and including discounts or premiums related to such borrowings. And not only that, the finance charges in respect of leases, particularly finance leases, is also considered as borrowing costs. This can be asked as a theoretical question. Otherwise, application of this in problems can only be there for the last point. All others are pretty straightforward, just for us to understand what is borrowing cost basically according to AS 16. Now, majorly what AS 16 tells us about is the treatment of borrowing costs. That is the essence of it. This flowchart is the essence of AS 16, we can say. What is the essence of AS 16? The borrowing costs, first of all, that should be borrowing cost, and if they are directly related to three things. ACP. What is that? Acquisition, construction, or production of what? Of something called qualifying asset. If the borrowing costs are directly related to acquisition, construction, or production of qualifying assets, then such borrowing costs are capitalized. If they are not related to qualifying assets, then they are charged to the P&L account as revenue expenditure. That's all. Only two possibilities. Any asset can be either a qualifying asset or a non-qualifying asset. Only two options. There is nothing else. Our job is to find out what type of asset is a qualifying asset and what is not a qualifying asset. Once we know if it is a qualifying asset, then the amount which has been borrowed and interest related to such amounts which are borrowed for the purpose of acquisition, construction, or production of such qualifying assets shall be capitalized. Capitalized means nothing but added to the cost of that asset itself. That is one treatment where calculations definitely will be involved related to how much of the borrowing cost shall be capitalized. Then what about non-qualifying assets? There is nothing else. That will be automatically charged off to the P&L account debit side as an expenditure. That is a normal routine treatment. So the point is, for an asset to be qualifying asset is important aspect, so that a special treatment of capitalization of borrowing costs is possible. Otherwise, by default, normally any borrowing cost is just a revenue expenditure. Interest is definitely going to be debited to the P&L account, and in the profit and loss account or income statement of companies, it is shown as finance charges. Separate head is there for that, even in the P&L account format of part 2 of schedule 3 of Companies Act. So Normally it is charged to P&L, there is no speciality in that. There is no need of a separate big standard for that. So naturally the standard should focus on what now? Not on those things which are just charged off to P&L. That's anyway the normal treatment. Everybody knows that. Interest, debit P&L account, that's all. As an expenditure, it will be debited to P&L account. But point about AS16 is not that only. AS16 is mostly focusing on the other area, which is that which asset is a qualifying asset. First of all, okay, there is a qualifying asset, and if there is any borrowing that has been taken and there is any interest expenditure on such borrowing, why the borrowing was taken? That was taken for the purpose of acquisition, construction or production of such qualifying assets, then the borrowing costs shall be capitalized. Of course, should the borrowing costs directly relate to the acquisition, construction and production? Not necessarily so directly related. There is another point also which is a special case. The borrowing costs which could have been avoided if the expenditure on qualifying asset had not been made. That also can be understood as if they are directly related to that. Because without such expenditure on the qualifying assets, there would not have been a requirement of borrowing and there would not have been borrowing costs. So the borrowing costs are definitely related to acquisition, construction or production of a qualifying asset if they could have been avoided if the qualifying asset itself was not purchased or constructed or acquired. So that is the other aspect of it, which is a simple logical thing only, nothing special about it. Normally we know interest expenditure related to qualifying assets, that's all. Interest expenditure related to qualifying assets means we have to keep that in mind. Interest expenditure related to the borrowing, that borrowing being used for acquisition, construction and production of qualifying assets. Every time we are not going to call all this. So we say interest related to qualifying assets. If that interest is related to qualifying assets, that will be capitalized. If it is not related to qualifying assets, that means it is related to non-qualifying assets, then it is charged off to P&L account. That is the essence of Accounting Standard 16, and treatment of borrowing cost only has two possibilities. Either it is capitalized or it is charged to the P&L account. There is no other option. So naturally our job will be to identify what is a qualifying asset, how to identify qualifying asset, and under what circumstances the capitalization of interest should happen, and also under what circumstances capitalization of interest should not happen, which automatically results from first discussion itself. So what are the conditions for calling a particular asset as a qualifying asset? We can understand it with the example of qualifying asset. Say manufacturing plants, factory, let us say, building of a factory, or manufacturing plants or power generation facilities being now built, not used. Already power generation facilities are there, production is happening. That is not a qualifying asset. When the power generation facility is being built, then that is a qualifying asset. And not only that, inventories that require a substantial period of time to bring them to a saleable condition also can be called as qualifying asset. Investment properties also can be called as qualifying assets because generally they take longer period of time. So a main word here is substantial period of time. What is a qualifying asset? Is that asset which requires substantial period of time to bring them into use or saleable condition. Then naturally another question comes, what is a substantial period of time? That AS16 has not defined. It has not defined. But it said it depends upon the circumstances. In general, a 12 months period definitely can be considered as substantial period of time. So if the time taken for the purpose of acquisition, construction or production of a qualifying asset is more than 12 months, definitely it will be a substantial period of time. However, we have to be careful. That does not mean less than 12 months is not a substantial period. No. Greater than 12 months is definitely a substantial period. That much only AS16 said. It never said less than 12 means automatically it is not a substantial period. That it never touched upon. But what it said depends upon circumstances. Left it to the real facts. Depending upon the situation, we have to identify whether a period is a substantial period or not. So, that again is left to the judgment of the organization and management in real life. Naturally, for us, in examination questions, it is left to our judgment. So, definitely, we have to use common sense rather than rigid numbers like 12 months only I will take substantial period, otherwise I will take it as not a substantial period. Such type of rigidity was not even expected by AS16. Why should we show that? But on the other side, because it has not been rigid, even 2 months also I will take as substantial period. That also will be overaction. That will not be correct. So if something is like 6, 7, 8 months, 9 months, like that, we don't know. I mean, there is no particular number of the period, number of months that have been prescribed. But from the facts of the case, main thing is we have to look at whether this time period genuinely is required for the purpose of construction or production or acquisition of that asset or not. That is what we should take. Say, just for understanding and example purposes, say we wanted to buy a truck, the company wanted to buy a truck, and it has ordered a truck from one of the truck manufacturing companies. Because the truck stock was not available, though we have paid them advance also, the truck delivery got delayed by, let us say, 4 or 5 months. Just because of that we say that is a substantial period, or even let us say 6 months, 7 months also. Do we say that it is substantial period just because of that? We cannot say. Why? Because normally that asset is not some great asset that has to be built specially for us or something like that. The conditions are like that ki the stock is not available, so it is taking little more time. So should we capitalize the interest portion that is related to the period of placing the order of the truck and getting the delivery of the truck? Not really appropriate. So that depends upon the facts of the case. On the other side, let us say we ordered an aircraft. We are an airlines company and we ordered an aircraft from Boeing. Boeing will take a lot of time to actually construct an aircraft and give to us. 2, 3 years, 4 years it may take. That is a substantial period, definitely. That may be inventory for Boeing. That doesn't matter. For us it is a qualifying asset because we would have paid some money in advance also and progressively also for acquiring that asset, and it was taking a substantial period of time to produce that asset by our supplier. So then, yes, in that case we can say it is a substantial period. So once again, this judgment of what is a substantial period or not is very important. That depends upon the common sense, naturally, of the individuals who are looking at the situation. But we have to justify that. How can we justify that? Even though it is less than 12 months, sometimes we can say it is a substantial period depending upon the circumstances. There we can refer to Accounting Standard 16. So, what Accounting Standard 16 definitely tells us is substantial period of time is not something which is like a number of months which is defined. Whether a period is substantial period or not depends upon the type of the asset that is being built and the technology that is being used and other types of practical circumstances. In the light of that, in the particular scenario, this period can be considered as substantial period. We can write if we think that it is a substantial period. No sir, I don't think it is a substantial period. No problem. Then there is no big deal. All that you need to do is you don't consider it as a qualifying asset and charge it off to P&L. Nothing great is going to happen. It is all about whether a particular asset is a qualifying asset or not only makes the borrowing cost treatment different. If the asset is a qualifying asset which requires a substantial period of time to bring it into existence, then interest related to the borrowing which was used for the acquisition, construction or production of such qualifying asset shall be added to the cost of the asset. In other words, that interest will be ultimately charged to P&L but not immediately, over a period of time through depreciation, because the original cost of the asset has been enhanced with this. It will be charged to the P&L over a period of time. If not, only two options, yes or no. Substantial period, yes or no. Yes, then it is a qualifying asset. Yes, that means capitalize. Other side, substantial period, no, that means it is not a qualifying asset. Then automatically charge the interest to P&L account. So there is no special new things that we can bring here. It's all about finally finding out two options, whether an asset is a qualifying asset or not. And naturally that depends upon whether that asset takes a substantial period of time to bring it into existence. How do we know that? We have to look at the case. We cannot have any particular list of things, these are all qualifying, those are all not qualifying. We cannot say that, because there can be exceptions to any list that whatever we produce. That is why, as a general example, construction of a manufacturing plant or a factory, construction or installation of power generation facilities, they take time. Like, let us say, building ships or aircrafts, they take time. Investment properties, like buildings, once again, they take time to build them. So those are definitely can be considered as qualifying asset, because generally they take substantial period of time to bring them to either a saleable condition or a usable condition. That is the main point related to qualifying asset that we should note. Of course, which are not falling in this category automatically become non-qualifying assets. Like what? Other investments and those inventories that are routinely manufactured or otherwise produced in large quantities on a repetitive basis over a short period of time are not qualifying assets. Assets that are ready for their intended use, that are ready for their intended use or sale, which are already ready for their intended use or sale when acquired, also are not qualifying assets. Okay, you purchased a big asset, plant and machinery, but it was ready to be used. All that you need to do is just bring it and install it and use it. Then we can say that plant and machinery what we purchased is a qualifying asset. No, it is not. Because this is also important point to note, when that is ready for the intended use or sale at the time of acquisition, then also it is not a qualifying asset. So once again, this entire standard is about identifying whether a particular asset is a qualifying asset or not. If yes, then computations will start. We have to compute how much of the interest to be capitalized. If not, if it is not a qualifying asset, then the interest has to be charged to P&L. There will not be much of computations also in that second criteria. But both will be given in the problems. All that our job is to bifurcate them, split them into two categories, identify how much of the interest should be capitalized, how much of the interest should be charged to the P&L account. As far as problem solving is concerned, this is enough. This is what exactly the crux of Accounting Standard 16 tells us. But however, while calculating the borrowing costs, there are possible different scenarios that also we have to look at. For this purpose, we can classify the borrowing costs into two categories. One is specific borrowings, second one is general borrowings. Naturally, the name itself will indicate. Specific borrowing means what? Specific borrowing means that to the extent the funds are borrowed specifically for the purpose of obtaining a qualifying asset. So you wanted to buy or acquire a qualifying asset. For that purpose only, specifically a loan is taken, and in such case that borrowing is called as specific borrowing. Then calculations become simple, because you know that exactly at what percentage of interest you have borrowed those funds. Apply that interest rate, apply and calculate the interest finance charge that is applicable to this specific borrowing. Automatically that entire amount will be added to the qualifying asset cost. Because it is qualifying asset, that borrowing cost has to be capitalized. So how to calculate borrowing cost in case of specific borrowings? Whatever the actual borrowing costs are incurred, that will be the specific borrowing cost. There will not be a special calculation required here, because you already know what is the rate of interest at which you have obtained this loan. So the amount of borrowing cost that is eligible for capitalization on that asset should be determined as what? Actual borrowing cost incurred on that borrowing during this period, whatever the period we are calculating the interest for. But main point here is less any income on the temporary investment of those borrowings. That is a point where we might apply in the problems also. If there is a specific borrowing, whatever the interest cost is, that is the interest cost. 12% interest, 10 lakhs rupees loan was taken, 1,20,000 is interest cost. That does not require any great mathematical calculations. Simple calculation of how much is the interest cost. Of course, for the period for which that loan has been taken during the financial year for which we are doing the accounting. But main point is, from that borrowing cost we have to reduce any income that is generated on the temporary investment of these borrowings. In other words, when the borrowing has already been made, that may not be entirely spent immediately for the purpose of the construction or acquisition of the qualifying asset. So temporarily that money may be kept in some short-term money market instruments or short-term fixed deposits, like type of temporary investments. And there may be some interest that is generated out of those temporary investments. That is income, right? So should we consider it as a separate income, show it as revenue, or show it as other income in the P&L account? No. If that interest that is generated from those temporary investments is out of the proceeds which we borrowed specifically for the purpose of obtaining a qualifying asset, then while calculating the borrowing costs, we reduce that interest that is earned on the temporary investment of such borrowings. That is one of the important aspects related to specific borrowings. Calculations will be straightforward. Percentage of interest will be known, period will be known, amount will be known. All that you need to do is calculate simple interest for the period for which the loan has been taken. But reduce the interest income from that if such specific borrowings have been invested temporarily and some interest has been earned on such temporary investments. Then another important aspect, and this is where the calculations will definitely be involved, important one for exam point of view, for calculation purposes, is general borrowings. General borrowings means what? Borrowings are done but not particularly related to this asset. An organization might have taken a loan of 500 crores, and that 500 crores may be used for many purposes. One of the purposes was to obtain the qualifying asset. Then what? That too. Those general borrowings also might be at different rates of interest. Then what? So these are the various possibilities. In case of specific borrowings, directly we will take the actual borrowing cost as if it is the borrowing cost which has to be capitalized, less any proceeds of interest on temporary investment. But in case of general borrowings, that is not the case. In case of general borrowings, the funds are borrowed generally and used also for the purpose of obtaining a qualifying asset. So normally the funds are borrowed without any specific purpose. But after the funds are there available with us, we can use it for any purpose. And but what the organization has done, it has used some of the funds for the purpose of obtaining a qualifying asset. Then what? Then the amount of borrowing cost that is eligible for capitalization should be determined by obtaining a, this is what AS16 has very clearly told, this is what you should write also while calculating it, a capitalization rate to the expenditure on that asset. So what we have to do is apply something called as a capitalization rate to the amount that has been invested on that asset or capital expenditure which has been spent on that asset. Then another point comes naturally, what is capitalization rate? That is not a big deal. It is nothing but the weighted average of the borrowing costs. So what is capitalization that we should apply is, we should calculate weighted average of the borrowing costs applicable to the borrowings of that enterprise that are outstanding during the period, other than, of course, the borrowings which are made specifically for the purpose of obtaining a qualifying asset. When certain amounts are already borrowed for the purpose of specifically obtaining the qualifying asset, those are separate. Anyway, we calculated them and keep them separate. Don't mix them here. So we have to only consider here what? The weighted average of borrowing costs related to the general borrowings other than specific borrowings. How to calculate weighted average? Common sense once again. Weighted average is weighted average. Everywhere, wherever we apply, it will be the same. So what is the amount of the loan? Divided by the total amount of the loan will give us weight. multiply that with interest rate applicable to that loan, it will give us weighted average of that particular loan. Like this, you calculate for all the loans and then total them. We get weighted average interest rate. That is what we are calling it as capitalization rate. According to Accounting Standard 16, for general borrowings, we have to calculate that capitalization rate. How? By taking the weighted average of the interest rates applicable to different general borrowings other than specific borrowings. This is also important for computational purposes. Then other theoretical aspects are there. Practical aspects in real life can be observed. Not much useful for problem solving, but theoretical questions can be asked. When the capitalization should start? Commencement of capitalization, when it should start? Again, common sense. When the capitalization should start? First of all, expenditure for the acquisition, construction or production of the qualifying asset is being incurred. Means expenditure on that ACP process has started. And not only the expenditure for the ACP, every time acquisition, construction, production we are not calling, we are just calling it as ACP, acquisition, construction or production. So expenditure is incurred for ACP, that has started to be incurred, and not only that expenditure on ACP, but also borrowing cost also should be incurred, right? First of all, then only there is capitalization. When there is no borrowing cost, what you will capitalize? So borrowing cost should be incurred. And one more point, the activities which are necessary to prepare the asset for its intended use are in progress. In other words, they are not yet complete. The activities which are required and necessary to prepare the asset for its intended use are not yet completed, they are still in progress. As long as that is happening, commencement of capitalization can happen and the capitalization can continue till that asset is actually completed. Okay, once that asset is completed, ready for its intended use, then we will do cessation of capitalization. We will stop capitalization when that asset is ready for its intended use. That's a common sense point. When the construction or purchase or acquisition of that asset has started, capitalization will start. When that construction or production has been completed and it is ready for intended use, then cessation will happen. But in between, there is another possibility for suspension of capitalization. Suspension means only temporarily capitalization is being stopped. Then what happens to interest? Sir, interest we are paying, but that interest will not be capitalized. Rather, for that period, interest might be charged to the P&L. But once suspension is lifted, then again capitalization can start. Very rare scenario, but still Accounting Standard 16 tells about it. What is the relevance of that for our questions and problems? Not much. But once again, very particularly possible to be asked as a theoretical question. What are the circumstances according to Accounting Standard 16 where the capitalization can be suspended? 5 points are there, 5 marks question can be given. So for that purpose, you need to read, understand and remember these points of when suspension of capitalization can happen. Of course, capitalization of borrowing cost should be suspended during the extended periods in which the active development is interrupted. These are the words used. Active development means active construction, active production of the qualifying asset is interrupted. It has paused. It has not stopped. We have to understand that. We are not talking cessation. We are talking suspension. Difference between suspension and cessation is that of a pause and stop. Here we are only pausing the capitalization. Why we are pausing the capitalization? Because the project itself has paused. It got interrupted for little extended periods. What is extended period? We have to look at realities. Then, borrowing cost may be incurred during an extended period in which the activities necessary to prepare an asset for its intended use or sale are interrupted, and such costs are the costs of holding partially completed assets, and that is why they do not qualify for capitalization. So they are only cost of holding a partially completed asset. They are not costs incurred to bring the asset to the condition of its sale or usage. No, they were just holding the asset, but on other side interest is running because we already borrowed money. Interest is running. We have to pay interest to our lenders, but asset is not being constructed or produced. So the activities which are necessary to prepare an asset for its intended use or sale are interrupted. Because of that, we cannot call them as activities which are required for the purpose of preparing an asset for the intended use or sale. So we can only call them as maximum as costs of holding partially completed assets. That is why they do not qualify for capitalization. So the activities are not happening which are necessary to prepare the asset for its intended use or sale. They are not in progress. When they are not in progress, suspension should happen. That is why they do not qualify for capitalization. And other side, again exceptions to this. However, capitalization of borrowing costs is not normally suspended during a period when substantial technical and administrative work is being carried out. Technical and administrative work is being carried out. Then we cannot suspend the capitalization. Capitalization can continue because the production is not happening actually on the ground. The manufacturing or building of that asset is not happening, but substantial technical work and administrative work is also being carried out simultaneously. In that case, it is okay. Like design work is happening, full planning is happening, a lot of other work is happening, but the actual work is not happening. So just for understanding purposes, though it has nothing to do with accounting of assets and all. Say, for a film production, lot of activities related to film production should happen on the ground, that is shooting basically. But even if that is not happening, most of the other work that is required for the preparation of the entire crew and cast for that purpose, if that is happening, that is also work. We cannot say just because shooting is not happening, film is not progressing. So that is an example only. In that case, there is no need to suspend the capitalization. That is as good as the work is being undertaken. So again, we are looking at activities that are necessary to prepare the asset. Activities do not mean only really physically the activities should be carried out. Even if those activities include some substantial technical or administrative work, still that is okay. Then we don't need to suspend the capitalization. Capitalization can continue in that case. Also, capitalization of borrowing costs is also not suspended when there is a temporary delay. They are also not suspended when there is a temporary delay, because which is a necessary part of the process of getting an asset ready for its intended use or sale. So for example, it is quite common, say, capitalization continues during the extended period during which high water levels delay the construction of a bridge. Imagine the bridge is being constructed or a big project, irrigation project is being constructed. When the river is on high water levels, maybe the construction might pause temporarily, 2 months, 3 months, when that river has high water levels. That may delay the construction of the bridge, because that is quite natural that high water levels are common during the construction period of that bridge in the geographic region that is involved. So that is not something which is avoidable, that is inevitable, because that is also a necessary part of the process of getting an asset ready for its intended use or sale. Then for those 2-3 months of temporary delay, should we stop capitalization of interest? No need to suspend. So the point is, suspension of capitalization is not something that normally happens. Rarely it happens. A16 is not promoting the suspension of capitalization. It is telling that if active development is seriously interrupted, it has paused, and that extended periods are there where there is no active development happening, then better to suspend. However, do not suspend capitalization just because there is a temporary delay because of natural reasons which are common for the purpose of bringing that asset to be ready for its intended use or sale. Also, no need to suspend the capitalization when at the same time of interruption of the active development, on the other side there is a substantial technical and administrative work is being carried out. Even then also no need of suspending the capitalization is what A16 talks about, which is a pause button sometimes we can press, and A16 also says it is not necessary that we have to suspend capitalization if it is inherent part of the project development process or the asset development process. So that is about something intermittently that happens. When the commencement of capitalization starts, naturally when the EACP starts. The process of EACP starts, then commencement of capitalization starts. When it gets interrupted, suspension may happen. We have to look at whether suspension is appropriate or not, depending upon the practical situations. Everything is depending upon actual situations. But AS 16 gives a overall guidelines, broader guidelines about when suspension can happen and when suspension cannot happen. Then finally, naturally, the cessation of capitalization will come. Cessation means stopping. Naturally, no logical point once again. When cessation of capitalization should happen, in other words, after this point, the interest cost might still be there, but that interest cost will not be capitalized anymore. Rather, that will be charged to the P&L. When is that? When substantially all the activities which are necessary to prepare the qualifying asset for its intended use or sale are complete. Complete, not like 100% complete, but substantially all the activities which are necessary for bringing the qualifying assets to its intended use or sale. When those activities are complete, then naturally the capitalization should start. Once again, we should not use the income tax words here, put to use and all. Put to use or not is a different story. When the activities involved for preparing the qualifying assets for its intended use are complete, even at least substantially, then enough. Cessation of capitalization will happen, and after that also interest cost might be incurred, but that will not be capitalized, that will be charged to P&L. So that is the point here. So then question comes, when can we say that these activities are all substantially complete? Again, we cannot say that. It depends upon practical scenarios. We can only look at examples and general possibilities. An asset can be normally said that it is ready for its intended use or sale when its physical construction or production is complete. Physical production, once it is complete, we can say that asset is normally ready for its use. Of course, though routine administrative work might still continue. For example, a building is complete, but the building completion certificate is not yet obtained from the local authorities. Can we say that building is not complete for this purpose? No, we cannot say. Building is done, ready. Administrative work related to that may be still pending. That does not make it, the asset is not complete. So routine administrative work might still continue. And if minor modifications, like decoration of a property to the user specification or all that are outstanding, that also indicates that substantially all the activities are complete. So building is already completed, interior is done, only final coating of outside walls is yet to be done. Can we say that building is not complete? We cannot say. Just but that for those minor modifications and minor things, we don't have to say that building is not yet complete. Those things may still be pending, that's okay. That is the reason why the first point itself said substantially all activities. It never said all activities should be complete. If substantially all activities are complete, that is enough to call that an asset is ready for its intended use or sale. That is the second point. Third point, when the construction of a qualifying asset is completed in parts and a completed part is capable of being used while construction continues for the other parts, then capitalization of the borrowing cost in relation to a part should cease when substantially all the activities necessary to prepare that part of that intended use or sale are complete. It may so happen sometimes the qualifying asset may have multiple parts. Let us say a huge construction of gated community is happening. In that, there are different types of sub projects within that which the contractor or developer is undertaking. Say there is an apartment complex also. There are one bedroom, small, let us say one floored independent houses also, like that duplex houses also, triplex houses also. Different are there. So when can we say that completion of this project has happened? Only when all the buildings are completed, then only? No, not necessarily. Imagine if apartment complex is ready and it can be used, while other projects or other things which are also related to the same overall project, like the row houses are done, single floored houses, but Duplex houses and triplex houses are still under construction, not yet complete. So should we say that no, project is not yet complete, I will not cease the capitalization? That will not be correct. So what should we do then? Whichever is complete. To the extent, let us say apartment complexes are complete, to the extent of the borrowing costs which are related to that apartment complex should be stopped to be capitalized. Same way row houses are complete. To the extent of borrowing costs related to the borrowing used for the construction of those row houses should be stopped to be capitalized. Whereas work is still going on duplex and triplex houses, let the capitalization still continue because the asset is not yet complete. So the point is, proportionately we have to take, if at all there is any such situation. So what the standard said, that part of this overall asset for its intended use or sale are complete. So to that extent, whatever is complete, there we can stop the capitalization. To the extent where the work is still going on, then the capitalization can continue for those parts where the work is still in progress. Like that. Same example is given here, similar to that. A business park comprising several buildings, each of which can be used individually, is an example of a qualifying asset for which each part is capable of being used while construction continues for other parts. They're quite possible, right? One business park is there. Three buildings are supposed to be constructed. In that, one is complete. Two are still going on. So should we say that let the other two also complete, then only I will stop capitalization? Not correct. Once one building is ready for its intended use, then capitalization can stop for such one building only, and capitalization can continue for the other parts. That is okay. And an example of a qualifying asset that needs to be complete before any part can be used is an industrial plant involving several processes which are carried out in sequence at different parts of the plant within the same site, like a steel mill. There you cannot say it is ready for its intended use. Whatever factory, example steel mill, any factory, let us say, when can you say that it is complete? When it is actually fully complete. Foundation finished, construction outside walls are all done related to a factory. Okay, to that extent I will stop capitalization. No, we cannot say, because asset is not yet complete. It is not ready for its intended use. Intended use is factory. There you cannot stop capitalization till the entire factory is finished. There is no part cessation of capitalization. There has to be capitalization stopped when the entire plant gets completed. That is another situation where part-wise cessation of capitalization is not possible. Another situation might be there where part-wise cessation is possible, because each part might be capable of being used for its intended use or sale. That is enough. So buildings can be a good example of such situation. Factory construction, any other technical installations can be considered as examples of second scenario, where cessation of capitalization will only happen when the entire asset is ready for its intended use. Intended use there is not building. Intended use is the factory, total overall factory, which can start manufacturing in future. So once again, always the core point you have to keep in mind. Intended use or sale is important. We cannot just keep some list of the things where we have to seize and where we should not seize, or where we should have to stop and where we should not stop. Not possible. All depends upon practical situations. Logic, if we understand, then automatically we have to apply that logic in that particular situation to get our conclusion and write that in the exam also, if such cases are given. Case based questions like this can be given, they were given also. For that purpose, you need to remember these three things: commencement of capitalization, when it should start; suspension of capitalization can happen when and it need not happen when; and cessation of capitalization should happen when. Normally, when all the activities or substantially all the activities required to prepare the qualifying asset for its intended use are complete, then cessation of capitalization will happen. But just because some minor modifications are there, just because some routine administrative work is pending, we cannot say the activities are not yet complete. Same way, if the activities are complete part-wise, then to the extent of that part where the part is ready for its intended use, capitalization can stop. Remaining parts which are still under construction, can continue to have the capitalization in such a scenario. So that is the three different situations which can be asked as case-based questions, or they can be even asked as a direct theory questions also. What are the situations when the capitalization can start, suspend, can be started, can be suspended, can be stopped? So if that is a question, all three are asked in 5 marks, you don't have to write all these 3 points. All points are not required. Core has to be written because these things what we are showing here include examples. Then you just have to write the core points. When the commencement should start, when the suspension should happen, or when it should not happen. So 1 point for starting, 2 points for suspension, or 3 points for suspension, 1 point for cessation, done. 1 or 2 points for cessation, done, enough. Core things only have to be written. If all the 3 are asked in one theory question, quite possible, because it's a very good theoretical discussion from Accounting Standard 16. But as far as problems are concerned, our calculations will involve computation of this capitalization rate, which is nothing but weighted average interest cost related to general borrowings. And for specific borrowings, there is no special calculation, that will be directly applied on the expenditure that is incurred on purchase of the asset. These are the various aspects related to AS 16 for normal situations. Now let us move on to the last point that we discussed in the first scope of AS 16, which is related to exchange differences in foreign currency borrowings. This could be a very important aspect. Why is that? Because it is talking about exchange differences also, which covers AS 11, and it is talking about borrowings also and borrowing cost related to that also. That means it is covering AS 16. So when both are covered in one shot, definitely that can be a best possible question for a paper setter. Hence it becomes important discussion. Read and understand this very carefully. What does AS 16 suggest about exchange differences which are arising from foreign currency borrowings? Are we talking about exchange differences on the borrowings? Obviously not. We are not talking about the borrowings. We are talking about to the extent they are related to the interest. That much only. So borrowings itself is not the point. We are talking about to the extent they can be called as interest. But the point is to what extent they can be called as interest. That will be told by Accounting Standard 16 in these 2 paragraphs. Read it carefully. Exchange differences arising from foreign currency borrowing and considered as borrowing costs are those exchange differences which arise on the amount of principal of the foreign currency borrowings to the extent of the difference between interest on local currency borrowings and interest on foreign currency borrowings. This is the crux of it. So what is borrowing cost here? What can be called as borrowing cost here is, of course, the difference or the exchange difference is arising on the principal of the foreign currency borrowing only. But that is also completely not considered as 11 difference. In that part also there is a 16 difference, that is borrowing cost. So to what extent those are all called as borrowing costs? To the extent of what? Difference between interest on local currency borrowings and interest on foreign currency borrowings. So this is a formula you can say. Interest on local currency borrowings minus interest on foreign currency borrowings can be called as borrowing cost. That's it. But what if there is some more exchange difference? That will be treated as exchange difference, that will be dealt with in Accounting Standard 11. So to what extent it is treated as borrowing cost under AS 16 is only this. That is interest on local currency borrowing and interest on foreign currency borrowing. These two have to calculate. Difference between them can be called as borrowing cost according to AS 16. So what is this? Once again concluding, the amount of exchange difference not exceeding the difference between interest on local currency borrowing and interest on foreign currency borrowing is considered as borrowing cost to be accounted for under this standard. And what if any, remaining exchange difference is there, if any, that is accounted for under AS 11, that is effect of changes in foreign exchange rates. And what is for this purpose? interest rate for the local currency borrowing, that is not real, that is imaginary situation, as that rate at which the enterprise would have borrowed. Enterprise would have borrowed at one rate. If at all the enterprise had borrowed the loans in the local currency, how much interest it would have paid. That is called interest on local currency borrowing. Interest on foreign currency borrowing is fact, because that is where the actual borrowing has happened. So interest on local currency borrowing is a imaginary calculation which has to be done, because that is the rate of interest which the enterprise would have used for borrowing locally had the enterprise not decided to raise the foreign currency borrowing. So if it did not go for foreign currency borrowing but went for local currency borrowing, how much interest it would have paid is interest on local currency borrowing. Interest on foreign currency borrowing is a fact that will have to be calculated according to the facts. Difference between these two is called as foreign borrowing cost for the purpose of AS 16, and any exchange difference over and above this will be considered as normal exchange difference, and that has to be dealt with according to AS 11. That is the essence of this particular discussion, and that can be understood with this example also. Look at this situation which was given in ICI material. XYZ Limited has taken a loan of $10,000 on April 1st, whatever date, for a specific project at an interest rate of 5% per annum payable annually. So it has taken a loan which is in US dollars. Rate of interest applicable on that is 5% per annum payable annually. On April 1st, 2016, let us say the exchange rate between the currencies was 45 rupees per US dollar. The exchange rate as at 31st March 2017 is 48 rupees per US dollar. And the corresponding amount could have been means not real, could have been borrowed by XYZ Limited in local currency at an interest rate of 11% per annum as on April 1st, 2016. If at all it borrowed in India, let us say, it could have borrowed at 11% per annum. Could have. But no, it did not go for it. It went for American dollar loan at a rate of 5% per annum. So the point is how to compute the borrowing cost for the purpose of accounting standard 16. What this paragraph is telling us is the difference between interest on local currency borrowing, which is an imaginary calculation, minus the interest on foreign currency borrowing, which is reality, should be considered as borrowing cost. Over and above whatever the exchange difference is there, that will be dealt with as per accounting standard 11. But first and foremost, what is the exchange difference? Let us first find that out. What is the exchange difference? Exchange difference is how much? $10,000 are taken and 45 was the rate at the beginning of the year, 48 rupees was the rate at the end of the year. So exchange difference is how much? 48 minus 45, 3. That means 30,000 rupees is the exchange difference in foreign currency borrowing. It is the difference in borrowing that is there. So far, if we didn't know this paragraph, what we would have done? We would have treated it according to accounting standard 11. But no, accounting standard 11 only will not be applicable here. AS 16 also will be applicable here, because there is a possibility of taking this loan within India also. Then the interest on such local currency borrowing could have been different from the interest on foreign currency borrowing. So what this said, difference between interest on local currency borrowing and interest on foreign currency borrowing should be treated as borrowing cost. For that we should find out both of them. What is the interest on foreign currency borrowing? Let us take that first. Interest on foreign currency borrowing naturally has to be paid at the end of the period, let us say. So how much is the interest there? US dollar 10,000, right? 5%, right? So 10,000 into 5% into end of the year exchange rate is 48 rupees per US dollar. So how much will that be? That can be called as interest on foreign currency borrowing, which is real. Really you have to pay that, no? End of the year, 10,000 into 5% means $500 interest we have to pay. But what is the rupee equivalent of that? Rupee equivalent of that is 24,000. Then, interest on local currency borrowing is not real. That is imaginary. That we should find out. How much would be that? Means if we have taken this loan of $10,000 at the beginning of the year within India, how much rupees we would have got? We would have got 45 rupees only. That means 10,000 into 45, 4,50,000 rupees we would have got. And what is the rate of interest that is applicable? If the loan was taken in local currency, 11% per annum. So 11% per annum interest. If at all, this is once again not real, if at all the loan was taken within India, then interest on the local currency borrowing would have been 49,500 rupees. So interest on local currency borrowing would have been 49,500, but interest on foreign currency borrowing is 24,000. So according to accounting standard 16, what it says, difference between these two, this interest on local currency borrowing minus interest on foreign currency borrowing should be treated as borrowing cost. So 49,500 minus 24,000. 49,500 minus 24,000 means how much? 25,500 rupees should be considered as borrowing cost. Okay? That is considered as borrowing cost according to accounting standard 16. So out of this 30,000, 25,500 is considered as borrowing cost under accounting standard 16. Naturally remaining, how much is remaining? That is 4,500 can be considered as foreign exchange fluctuation under accounting standard 11. So this is the application of this particular provision, where there is a foreign exchange difference in the foreign currency borrowings to the extent of difference between interest on local currency borrowing and interest on foreign currency borrowing shall be treated as borrowing cost. It is not treated as exchange difference. Then over and above that is treated as exchange difference. So in this example, 25,500 is treated as borrowing cost and 4,500 will be treated as exchange difference under accounting standard 11. That's it. With that we can conclude the theoretical discussion related to AS 16 borrowing cost. Now let us continue this discussion with some of the problems about accounting standard 16. First problem, X Limited began construction of a new building on 1st January 2012. It obtained 1 lakh special loan, that is specific loan, to finance the construction of this building on 1st January 2012 at an interest rate of 10%. And the company's other outstanding 2 non-specific loans are given like this at the rate of 11% and 13%. The expenditures that were made on the building project were as follows. In January, April, July, December, different expenses were made. Building was completed by 31st December. Following the principles prescribed in accounting standard 16, calculate the amount of interest to be capitalized and also pass one journal entry for capitalizing the cost and borrowing cost in respect of the building. So, first of all, we have to calculate this borrowing cost that is supposed to be capitalized. And we have to remember the provisions of AS 16 related to specific borrowings and general borrowings. Specific borrowings, we have to use the rate whatever is applicable to that. And general borrowings, we have to use a capitalization rate, which is nothing but weighted average rate that is applicable on them. So, for specific borrowings, naturally, let us call them as specific borrowings. What is the interest rate that is supposed to be used? That is 10% to the extent of amount of 1 lakh. So there is 1 lakh specific borrowing at the rate of 10%. Then coming to general borrowing, how much is borrowed doesn't matter. That is general borrowing. Specific borrowing matters because that is related to this project only. But general borrowing, what matters is weighted average rate of interest. So we have to find out the weighted average cost. So weighted average cost can be calculated by using a small table as a presentation. So how much is the loan amount, how much is the rate of interest, you can find out the weighted average interest rate. So what is the general borrowing, let us call it? How much is that? It is 5 lakhs and 9 lakhs. We don't need lakhs and all, just we can say 5 and 9. Total is 14 lakhs. Then rate of interest is how much? Rate of interest is 11% and 13%. Interest rate, let us call it. That is 11% and 13%. So first and foremost, we can find out the weight. Other two are given already. General borrowings amount is given, interest rate is also given. First we can find out the weight of each loan. So what is the weight of 5 lakhs loan? Naturally 5 divided by 14. So 5 divided by 14 will be how much? Approximately, percentage wise if you take 35.71%. Then 9 divided by 14 will be how much in percentage terms? Naturally 64.29%, the total of which should be 100%. That is the weight we are talking about. So simply we took the weightage of each of the loans separately. Now we need to multiply these two to get weighted average interest rate. So you can say 11% into 35.71%, or you can call it 0.11 into 0.3571 percentage wise, m plus 0.13 into 0.6429, m plus, if you total that will come to around 12.29%, let us say. Again, these are approximations, no need to worry about decimals. So multiplying these two and totaling them. So while multiplying, because these two are percentages, we have to take decimals. We cannot take just percentages. Then if you take both of them as these numbers, then it will be difficult to find out the total. Then we have to divide it by 10,000. Not required all that. Simply what you can do, 0.11 into 0.3571, 0.13 into 0.6529. That is what percentage is, right? So 11 divided by 100 is 0.11. 13 divided by 100 is 0.13. So like that if you multiply, you will get individual items like this. So this comes to around 0.0393, let us say, and the next one comes to approximately 0.0836. So 0.0836 plus 0.0393, total of them, multiply with 100. What is the weighted average rate here is 12.29%. So this is the first calculation we are supposed to do for general borrowings. Specific borrowings we don't need to do anything, that is already given 10% rate of interest. So for general borrowings according to AS 16 we need to find out weighted average rate of interest. In this case it has come down to 12.29%. Then that is only rate of interest that we know, but we have to apply that on the expenditure that has been made on different dates. Another problem comes, do we know 1 lakh is spent on which date? No. Do we know when the remaining borrowings are spent on which date? No. We cannot exactly match the borrowing with the expenditure, not possible. So what we can do, once again, expenditure being done on different months, we have to take average expenditure once again for the entire year, average, not like monthly we can match them. If we can do that, that will be fantastic, but we cannot do that here with the information available. So no option, once again, just to, other than calculating average expenditure that has been spent in the entire year. How do we calculate that? We can calculate that by taking the amount of expenditure into number of months that expenditure has been spent. So January means full year. So 12 by 12, that will be 2 lakhs only. But April means it will be 9 months, including that month naturally. We don't know when it is incurred. We don't need to worry about dates and all. Months are given means. So 9 months. 2,50,000 into 9 by 12, that will be 1,87,500. Then July means 6 months, so 4,50,000 into 6 by 12, half that comes to around 2,25,000. Then December means only 1 month because the building was completed by December, 1 month only, so 1 by 12, 1,20,000 into 1 by 12 will be 10,000. So what is the average expenditure that has been spent on the asset according to the months? We cannot calculate interest on each of them separately. We cannot match them. So on an average, how much is the expenditure? That we can calculate. So 2 lakhs plus 187,500 plus 225,000 plus 10,000 means 6 lakhs 22,500 is the overall expenditure on an average that has been incurred in the year. Now, in this 6 lakhs 22,500, 1 lakh is related to definitely specific borrowings. So, what is the interest related to the specific borrowings? That is 10,000, that is guaranteed. What about remaining? In this 6 lakhs 22,500, 1 lakh if it is related to specific borrowings, remaining 5 lakhs 22,500 will be general borrowing. Then what is the rate of interest applicable? We already calculated. Multiply with 12.29%. So how much is the interest then? 522,500 into 12.29% approximately will be how much? 64,215. So what is the total of interest that is supposed to be capitalized? Total of these two, that comes to 74,215. That is the answer for this question. 74,215 should be capitalized. And he has also asked for journal entry. Journal entry will be simple. Whatever the amount of expenditure that is spent, he has asked for capitalizing the cost and borrowing cost. Cost also, borrowing cost also. So 2 plus 2.5, 4.5 plus 4.5, 9. 9 plus 1.2, 10 lakhs 20,000, right? So what is that is being constructed? Building, right? Yeah. So building account debtor. Building account debtor. How much will be that? Original cost 2 lakhs plus 250 plus 450 plus 120. 10,20,000 plus, because we are capitalizing means what? We have to add 74,215 also. So that means building account debtor how much? 10 lakhs 94,215 to bank account. 10 lakhs 94,215. We are not passing entry for individual expenditure. We are passing an entry for entire amount in one shot, because he said one journal entry to be passed. Assuming no entry has been passed earlier. If already entries were passed, then it would be a different story. If entry is not passed already, then naturally building account debtor to bank account will be the entry. How much will be the amount? 10,94,215. That's it. That is a capitalization of interest related to acquisition, construction or production of a qualifying asset when that asset is taking a substantial period of time to get it completed for the purpose of its intended usage. While doing so, in case of general borrowings, we can use the rate of interest whatever is actually applicable. But in case of specific borrowings, we can use the rate of interest whatever is applicable. But in the case of general borrowings, we have to take weighted average rate of interest. Applying that, we can find out how much of interest to be capitalized. Very important question. Same question, similar question has been asked many times in the past examinations, with little bit of changes here and there with numbers. But concept is same. Need to practice this question very well. Applying the principles of AS 16 only. Everything is in accordance with AS 16 only. Then, other questions, case-based questions can also be given like this. Take Limited has borrowed 30 lakhs rupees from State Bank of India during the financial year 16-17. That is the loan amount. The borrowings are used to invest in shares of Give Limited, a subsidiary company of Take Limited, which is implementing a new project. Estimated cost is 50 lakhs. So, Take Limited is not investing in the project. It is investing in shares of Give Limited, which might invest in a new project, which is estimated to cost 50 lakhs. As on 31st March 2017, since the said project was not complete, directors of Take Limited resolved to capitalize the interest accruing on borrowing amounting to 4 lakhs and add it to the cost of investments. Can they do that? Comment. Answer is no. They cannot do that. They are not building any qualifying asset. Take Limited, Give Limited, these two are two different entities. When Take Limited itself invests something for the construction of an asset, it's okay. But it is what it is actually buying. It is only buying shares in Give Limited. Shares is not an asset that has to be requiring a substantial period of time to get its intended use. No. Shares are available the moment you invest in them. So there is no qualifying asset here, first of all, for Take Limited. Shares is not a qualifying asset at all, definitely not. So when Take Limited does not have any qualifying asset, how can it capitalize the interest? Though the director is resolved that they will capitalize the interest of 4 lakhs and add it to the cost of investments. Answer is no, it is not appropriate, since investments in shares is not a qualifying asset, and if at all any capitalization has to happen, that might happen in Give Limited if it borrowed any money. We don't know anything about Give Limited, so we don't have to worry about it and write about it. As far as Take Limited is concerned, the board of directors' decision to capitalize this interest is inappropriate, since that shares investment in shares is not a qualifying asset. For that purpose, we have to write the theory. What is a qualifying asset? Why this is not a qualifying asset? All those theoretical aspects have to be written, and then conclusion has to be clearly mentioned. So what is the comment here? The director's resolution is invalid, inappropriate. It is in violation of accounting standard 16. Not acceptable. Then, question number 3. PRM Limited obtained a loan from a bank for 50 lakhs rupees on 30th April 2016, and it was utilized as follows. So loan amount is 50 lakhs and it has obtained this much loan. How can it use 50 lakhs? I think this is wrong. 120 lakhs. Loan amount should be 120 lakhs. That's a print mistake. So they obtained a loan from a bank of 120 lakhs and that is utilized as follows. So 50 lakhs is used for construction of a shed, purchase of machinery is 40 lakhs, working capital 20 lakhs, and advance for purchase of a truck they have given for 10 lakhs. So total naturally will be 120 lakhs loan that has been utilized as follows, it is mentioned. Then construction of a shed was completed in March 2017. That means after the end of the year. Almost it took 11 months. Just because 11 months it is not 12 months, so I will not call it qualifying asset. That is too much overaction. It can be a qualifying asset. It took a substantial period, definitely. Almost 11 months it has taken. So it is a substantial period. So construction of a shed can be considered as a qualifying asset. It took a substantial period. For construction it takes time, and it is a substantial period, definitely. Hence that can be considered as a qualifying asset. Machinery was installed on the date of acquisition itself. Can that be a qualifying asset? No, it is not a qualifying asset. Purchased and installed, done. So when the asset is ready for its intended use on the date of acquisition, it is not a qualifying asset. Delivery of a truck not received, but still it is not a qualifying asset because it is also ready-made. You just have to purchase the truck which you did. Delivery will come later, so what? That is not a qualifying asset. It is not going to take any substantial period just to get the delivery of that truck. Just because delivery is not received, nothing is going to change. Basically, it is not a qualifying asset at all. Working capital can never be a qualifying asset. It is not an asset, first of all. It is general purposes expenditure for which the loan amount of 120 lakhs has been utilized to the extent of 20 lakhs. And the total interest charged by the bank, total interest was 18 lakhs. Show the treatment of interest. So this is the question that can be asked in the examinations also. So normally speaking, it can be done in 2 lines, because only qualifying asset is how much? 50 lakhs. So how much interest can be capitalized? 18 lakhs into 50 by 120. Out of the total 120 lakhs loan, 50 lakhs is the only qualifying asset. So 18 into 50 by 120. Interest to be capitalized is 7.5 lakhs naturally, and interest to be charged to P&L account will be 10.5 lakhs. Remaining amount of interest, that is 18 minus 7.5. That's it, done. But do we get 5 marks for this? Difficult. So we have to first of all write some story about accounting standard 16. Story not in general words, the words used in the standard. What is a qualifying asset? You should define. Then you should write construction of a shed is a qualifying asset because it has taken substantial period of time. You can even justify your answer saying that though it has not taken 12 months, according to AS 16, depending upon the circumstances and situations and technicalities of the asset, substantial period can be less than 12 months also, not necessarily 12 months. So construction of a shed has been taken as qualifying asset. Purchase of machinery, working capital, advance for purchase of truck are not qualifying assets. Hence, interest related to them will not be capitalized. All these things you can write. Then you can find out the calculation and finally conclude that 7.5 lakhs rupees of interest amount can be added to the cost of this shed that is capitalized. 10.5 naturally being a revenue expenditure, it will be charged to the P&L account. That is how it can be done and presented well. Rather, same kind of presentation I am not going to show again and again in other problems. You can just prepare a big table, just like, that is how presentation matters. Not that ultimate answer is going to change, but the way we present can change, more professionally, more, we can say, visibly good. So what can be there? Definitely particulars can be there, whatever is given in the question only. And then the amount of loan can be there. Then amount of loan can be there. Then type of asset you can call it, qualifying or not qualifying. So then how much amount of the interest to be capitalized, how much to be charged to P&L can be shown separately. So what happens, the same thing is just presented in a different way. So particulars we will write one by one. Construction of shed, machinery, working capital, truck. You have to write the details. Shed, machinery, working capital, truck. Details you have to write. The amount, whatever is given there, 50, 40, 20, 10. Yeah? 40, 20, 10. Total 120. Okay. What is the type of asset? Qualifying asset, not qualifying asset, non-qualifying asset, non-qualifying asset. Then, how much of interest to be capitalized? For that, another working note you can show. So, what is the amount of interest to be capitalized? Here, whatever is given, 18 into 50 by 120. That you can show. 18 into 50 by 120. That we know. How much is that? 7.5. These are all not capitalized. So total amount to be capitalized is 7.5. Then how much to be charged to P&L? That you can calculate separately. 40 by 120 into 18, approximately 6. Then 18 into 20 by 120, 3. Right? 18 into 10 by 120, 1.5. Total 10.5. See the same answer. Presented well. Definitely gets 5 marks automatically. You just write, if I 7.5, 10.5, I know the calculation. No, it might not get full marks. One, you have to write the provisions of AS 16. That is one way of obtaining better marks and then concluding with calculations. Second, in such situations where there is a possibility, wherever there is a possibility of preparing a table, you prepare a table. That is the best technique. Where we want to increase the presentation. We are not doing any stories here. We are clearly calculating. It's a very professional presentation. So, definitely attracts better marks. So, like this you can do any type of question which is like this. This presentation I am not going to tell again and again. That you can do for other problems also. Computation is simple. All that we need to do is separately we are doing here. In this case we have done all of them put together. So when you do separately, naturally that gives us a table which looks good and gets us better marks. That is how the calculations of borrowing cost calculation have to be done in these cases. And final conclusion is always important. 7.5 lakhs to be capitalized and added to the cost of construction of the shed, whereas 10.5 lakhs should be charged to the profit and loss account as interest expenditure, as finance charges. That is a better word. That's it. Next, Look at question number 4. See, more or less the same questions will be repeated now. AXC Limited began construction of a new plant on 1st April 2008, obtained a special loan of 4 lakhs, to finance the construction of the plant. Rate of interest on that loan was 10%. Expenditure that was made on the project was like this: April, August and January. So this is financial year here that we have to identify. And the company's other outstanding non-specific loan was 23 lakhs, amount we don't care. Interest rate of 12%. There is no 2-3 loans so that we can find out weighted average. Only one more general loan is there, 12%. 12%, that's all. That is average. So 10% specific loan, 12% general loan. 10% has an amount that is 4 lakhs up to. Remaining amount, whatever it is, that will be applicable with 12%. So the construction of the plant completed on 31st March 2009. Naturally, that is the end of the year. Required to calculate the amount of interest to be capitalized as per the provisions of AS 16 and also pass a journal entry for capitalizing the cost and borrowing cost in respect of the plant. So simple question than question number 1. First of all, we have to find out, here there is nothing to find out, average, weighted average interest cost. So we have to find out weighted average construction cost on constructing this plant. How many months it was there. So we can just find that out. 5 lakhs into how many months? April to March means 12 months. So 12 by 12, naturally 5 lakhs. Then 12 lakhs into August. So calculate that carefully. So August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. That means 8 months. So if 12 into 8 by 12 is naturally 8. Then January, some expenditure is spent. 3 months that will be, 1st January it was made, January to March. So 2 lakhs into 3 by 12. So 2 lakhs into 3 by 12 means 0.5. That's all. So what is the total here? 13.5. This is the overall expenditure, weighted average, not weighted average, average expenditure we can say on the basis of months. Then out of this 13.5, 4 lakhs is coming from specific borrowing. Naturally remaining will come from general borrowing. How much is remaining? 9.5 will come from general borrowing. So 13.5 has 4 lakhs specific borrowing, 9.5 general borrowing. Rate of interest is known. Specific borrowing 10%, general borrowing 12%. Just apply that rate. So 10% and 12%. Now calculate it full-fledged. So 4 lakhs into 10%, 9,50,000 into 12%. Total interest will be 1,54,000 or 1.54 lakhs. So 4 into 10%, 9.5 into 12%. 1.54 lakhs is the interest, 1,54,000 rupees is the interest which should be capitalized. That's it. What will be the entry here? What is this asset that you have to see? Plant, right? A plant account at R2 bank. So how much will be the plant account at R2 bank account? Original cost anyway, plus interest. What was the original cost? 5 plus 12 plus 2, 19 lakhs. 5 plus 12 plus 2, 19 lakhs. Plus interest also to be capitalized 1.54 lakhs. That means 20.54 lakhs has to be totally capitalized in one entry, assuming no entries were passed earlier. If any entries were passed earlier, then it would be a different story. If already payment has already happened and bank entries are already passed, then we cannot pass this entry. So if no entry is passed, only one entry we are passing in one shot, then that is what we are doing. Plant account at R2 bank account, 20.54 lakhs. 19 lakhs representing the cost, 1.54 lakhs representing interest that has been capitalized in accordance with accounting standard 16. That was question number 4. Then a similar question once again, question number 5. The company has obtained institutional term loan of 580 lakhs. There is a total loan amount for modernization and renovation of its plant and machinery, and plant and machinery acquired under the modernization scheme and installation completed on 31st March 2017 amounted to 406 lakhs. So total 580. In that 406 is related to renovation, modernization, something like that. Not repairs and maintenance. Renovation and modernization, let us call it. renovation, right? Then installation of that also costed 406 lakhs. 58 lakhs has been advanced to suppliers for additional assets. We don't know that. Advances given for additional assets. We don't know whether they are qualifying or not. We can take either way. But 58 lakhs has been used for that purpose. And balance of loan 116 lakhs has been used for working capital purposes. So what is the total of this? 406 plus 58 plus 116, 580. So point here is accountant is in dilemma as to how to account for the total interest of 52.2 lakhs. That is the interest amount incurred during this year 2016-17 on the entire loan of 580 lakhs. So simple point is proportionate amount has to be capitalized here. So how much amount to be capitalized and how much amount to be charged to P&L is the question. 406, is it a qualifying asset? It looks like definitely modernization, installation, renovation takes time, you know. So 406 definitely is a qualifying asset. So 52.2, show the calculations in the exam. 52.2 into 406 divided by 580, 36.54 to be capitalized for sure. See, advances given for additional assets, we don't know what type of assets those are. If they also will take substantial time, they become qualifying. Otherwise, they are not. We cannot assume things to be qualifying, so better to take them as not qualifying. Always, qualifying is something which is not just to be done casually. Interest charged to P&L is quite normal. So, normal thing is that, exceptional thing is assuming it as qualifying. Either way we can do, but let us take it as non-qualifying asset because it is some additional assets. Probably they might be useful directly when they are delivered to us. So we don't know. So we are taking it as non-qualifying. 58 by 580 into 52.2. That comes to 5.22. Working capital, there is no doubt. Definitely it is non-qualifying. It has no asset at all in that. So how much that will be? 10.44. So 15.66, 36.54. So 15.66 plus 36.54. Total should be equal to 52.2. So what was the dilemma of accountant? How to treat this 52.2? In that, our conclusion is 36.54 lakhs should be capitalized. That should be added to the cost of this renovation and installation of this plant and machinery. That means plant and machinery cost to be increased by 36.54 lakhs. And 15.66 lakhs of interest should be charged to P&L as finance charge as interest expenditure. That is the conclusion we have to write for question number 5. Similar questions will be given, more or less the same, lot of times. Then question number 6. Govind Limited issued 12% security debentures of 100 lakhs to be utilized as under. So construction of factory building 40 lakhs, purchase of machinery, working capital. Construction of factory building can be a qualifying asset. This is not and this is not a qualifying asset, we can say. In March 2019, the construction of factory building was completed, took a year almost. So that can be a qualifying asset. And machinery was installed and ready for its intended use. So that is not a qualifying asset. Total interest on debentures for the financial year ended was 12 lakhs naturally because 12% debentures on 100 lakhs is 12 lakhs. During the year 18-19, company had invested idle fund out of the money raised from debentures in the bank's fixed deposits and earned an interest income of 3 lakhs. So this is where AS 16 special provision has to be applied for specific loans. What it said, you have to write that entire provision. What was the provision related to specific loans, that you have to particularly write. What is specific borrowing? So that has to be written first. Then you have to solve this. What was the provision saying? Whatever the interest is there related to the specific borrowings, from that any interest that is earned by making temporary investments will be deducted. So the real interest is how much here? 9 lakhs only, not 12 lakhs. And once the 9 lakhs is there, this has to be split into two categories, which is capitalization and which is to be charged to P&L. Simple logic. How much to be capitalized? First of all, 40 plus 35 plus 25 is 100. So 40% to be capitalized. So 9 lakhs into 40% capitalized means 3,60,000 should be capitalized because factory building construction was a qualifying asset, which was 40 lakhs out of 100 lakhs, that is 40%. So 40% of 9 lakhs is 3,60,000. So naturally, the remaining amount, 5,40,000, should be charged to P&L account. As I said, this can be done in a table also. That depends upon presentation. How will you calculate? 9 into 40 by 100, 9 into 35 by 100, 9 into 25 by 100, like that. You will have two separate columns, one for capitalization column, one for P&L column, like that. A table can be drawn for obtaining 5 marks for this question. Essence is still the same. But one more additional point here in this problem is, any interest that has been earned by way of temporary investments, already as it was given, any temporary investments are made and any income is generated from those borrowings, that should be reduced from the borrowing cost, which we did. And remaining, whatever 9 lakhs is the borrowing cost effectively, that has been split into two categories: capitalization of 3,60,000, charging to P&L 5,40,000. That's it. That was question number 6. Then question number 7, same type. 64 crores is the overall loan amount, and what is the interest amount here that is charged by the bank for the year ending 31st March 2018? 1.6 crores. Same, you can prepare a table like that. I'm not going to show the presentation once again. Essence is what you have to identify, and you have to identify qualifying or non-qualifying. Construction of Hill Link Road in Kedarnath. Construction, we don't know the other details, but we can definitely take it as qualifying asset, because construction takes time, particularly hilly roads like Kedarnath and all. So that might be taking a substantial period of time. Assuming that, we can consider it as qualifying asset. Purchase, not necessarily a qualifying asset. So we can take all the others which are like not qualifying assets. Purchase, working capital, definitely not. Vehicles, advance for tools and cranes, mostly available ready-made. Technical know-how, all of them are not qualifying assets, because they can be available for usage. They are already in a position where they can be used for their intended usage. So these all can be considered as non-qualifying assets. Total is 64 crores, that is clear. So 6 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 is 14 crores. 50 crores is qualifying asset and 14 crores is non-qualifying asset. I am only showing 2, but in exam you can show 6 separately. Qualifying, not qualifying, amount separately, one by one you can do the calculations and then show how much of the interest to be capitalized. What is the total interest? 1.6 crores. So 1.6 into 50 by 64. How much has to be capitalized in this? Naturally 1.25 crores has to be capitalized. Show the calculations in exam. 1.6 crores of interest into 50 by 64. 1.25 crores. Same way, 1.6 crores into 6 by 64. That will be 0.15. 4 by 64, 0.1. Then 1 by 64, 0.025, 0.025, 0.05. Total will be definitely there. So capitalization is 1.25. Other than that, which has to be charged to the P&L, .35. Total, of course, will be 1.6 crores. That is the total interest. Like this, you can show the calculations in a table and find out. Final answer is 1.25 crores to be capitalized and 0.35 crores to be charged to P&L. Ultimately, the answer will be more or less in the same lines. But the point is, details will be different. And finding out which is qualifying, which is non-qualifying is one thing that we should do. Calculations we have to show in a table for better presentation. That was question number 7. Then, question number 8. In May 2016, Capacity Limited took a bank loan to be used specifically for the construction of a new factory building. Construction was completed in January 2017. May 2016 to January 2017. not many months, but still almost 9 to 10 months. At least we can say, yeah, 9 months so definitely is there. January also, if it is there, 10 months is there. Yeah. So 9 months we can say. So and the building was put to use immediately thereafter. Interest on the actual amount used for construction of the building till its completion was 18 lakhs, whereas the total interest payable to the bank on the loan for the period till 31st March 2017 was 25 lakhs. Okay, we don't have to calculate anything, interest is already given. But how much is the interest till the building is complete? 18 lakhs. After that also interest is to be paid, but interest total interest payable to the bank on the loan for the period till 31st March amounted to 25 lakhs. Can 25 lakhs be treated as part of the cost of factory building and thus be capitalized on the plea that loan was specifically taken for the construction of factory building? Answer is no. 25 lakhs cannot be capitalized because the building was put to use immediately on January 2017 itself. Till its completion, how much interest was incurred? 18 lakhs. So how much can be capitalized is only 18 lakhs, but not 25 lakhs. After the completion of construction and once it is ready for its intended use or sale, capitalization should stop. So we have to write the provisions related to cessation of capitalization. Since the completion happened in January, interest up to that period only will be capitalized. Beyond that, whatever the interest is there, that will not be capitalized, should not be capitalized. And we don't know the calculations and all here, amounts are already given. Interest related to the construction of building till its completion was 18 lakhs. Total interest payable to the bank was 25 lakhs. We don't know why that interest is payable also, not necessarily for this only factory building, though it is taken specifically for it. So we don't have to worry about monthly interest and all. When the details are very clearly given, 18 lakhs is the interest till the completion. Total interest for the entire year was 25 lakhs. Can 25 lakhs be capitalized was the question. Answer is no, it cannot be capitalized. Only 18 lakhs can be capitalized till the building is complete. That's all. 7 lakhs has to be charged to P&L. That is question number 8. Then, question number 9. A company incorporated in June 2017 has set up a factory within a period of 8 months with the borrowed funds. Okay, they have set up the factory within 8 months. The construction period of the asset had reduced drastically due to the usage of technical innovations by the company. Whether interest on borrowings for the period prior to the date of setting up of the factory would be capitalized, although it has taken less than 12 months for the asset to get ready for use. You are required to comment on the necessary treatment with reference to AS 16. So should we say that they cannot capitalize because it is less than 12 months? Definitely no. That can be capitalized. They have worked well, they have worked efficiently, and because of technical innovations, they have reduced the construction period of the assets drastically. That does not mean because of that we will not allow them to capitalize the interest. So accounting standard 16 never said that 12 months is the only yardstick with which we have to see whether a particular period is a substantial period or not. It is only a general indication that was given by accounting standard 16. It should not be taken as a rigid yardstick. Even though the asset in this particular case has been completed within less than 12 months, which happened because of better use of technical innovations, we can say it is still a substantial period of time which has taken for construction of this particular asset. Hence, capitalization of interest shall not be disallowed. In other words, according to AS 16, the interest can be capitalized although the construction of the asset has taken for less than 12 months. That's it. This is a theory question you have to write. According to the provisions of AS 16, what is your conclusion? Completely theory, nothing to calculate here. Then, the last question. First Limited began construction of a new factory building on 1st April 2017. It obtained 2 lakhs rupees as a special loan to finance the construction of the factory building on 1st April 2017 at a rate of 8% per annum. So, special loan is there 2 lakhs. Same type of question. 2 lakhs special loan and rate of interest on that loan is 8% per annum. Further, the expenditure on construction of the factory building was financed through other non-specific loans. Details of non-specific loans are given as under. So, all that we need to do is find out weighted average rate. So, let us take weight first. We can do like this only. 4 by What is the total of this? 4 plus 5 plus 3. That is 12, right? So 4 by 12. So 4 by 12 means that is 1/3. 0.33 we can say. Or 33 1/3%. Both are same. Then 5 by 12. That is 0.4167 we can say. Then 3 by 12. 0.25. Total should be 1 whenever we say weights. 0.3333, 0.4167, 0.25. Total should be 1. That is weights. Right? When we have weights and then multiply with the interest rates, we can get the weighted cost or weighted interest. Then total that. So how to calculate that? Interest you have to take carefully. 9% means how much in decimals? 0.09 into 0.3333 m plus 0.12 into 0.4167 m plus 0.14 into 0.25 m plus, and memory recall. Finally the answer will be 11.5% approximately. That is the weighted average interest. That's it. You have to do this calculation, multiplying the rate of interest with the respective weights and finding out the total weighted average of that. 11.5% is the average, weighted average rate of interest on these all general loans, non-specific loans we can say. And then expenditure was incurred on these dates. April, May, August, 31st December, etc. Construction was completed by 31st March 2018. Dates are important. And first we have to find out the amount of interest to be capitalized, then pass journal entry for capitalizing the cost and borrowing cost in respect of the factory building. Right? So that's it. That is the point here. First, we have to find out average cost also, time period wise. So timelines are important. 31st March 2018 is when it is completed. 1st April it was incurred means into 12 by 12. That is 3 lakhs only. So 2.4 lakhs into May. 31st May expenditure is incurred means April, May, 2 months are gone. 10 by 12. So 2.4 into 10 by 12 will be how much? 2. Then 4 lakhs into 1st August. So August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. 8 months. 8 by 12. That will be 2.67, let us say, approximately. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. 8 months, right? So 4 into 8 by 12. So that is 2.67. Then 3.6 into 3 months. 3 by 12. That is 0.9. So what is the total of, on an average, what is the expenditure that has been spent throughout the year? So 0.9 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2.67, approximately 8,57,000 will be the approximate amount of average expenditure we can say, right? Or 8,56,667. That's okay. Ultimately, more or less it will be same. So 8,57,000 if it is the total expenditure. In that, how much is related to general loan and specific loan? Specific loan first we have to exclude. Specific loan was 2 lakhs with an interest rate of 8%. So in this 2 lakhs if you take out with an interest rate of 8%, then remaining will be how much? 6,57,000 with an interest rate of, as we calculated, 11.5%. All are approximate amounts here, percentages wise. That's okay. Then you have to just find out how much is the total interest that is supposed to be capitalized. So 2 lakhs into 8% m plus 657 into 11.5% m plus approximately a total of 91,555 rupees has to be capitalized. 91,555 rupees has to be capitalized. Then what entry will pass? Entry will pass according to actual cost. Whatever the actual cost. 3 lakhs, 240, 4 lakhs, 360. Total cost is 13 lakhs. So finally what entry will pass? Whatever the asset account that is. Which asset is? Building. So factory building account that are 13 lakhs 91,555 to bank, same 13,91,555. So journal entry has to be passed, capitalizing the interest also to the factory building. 13,91,555 is the total amount of capital expenditure on that factory building, inclusive of 91,555 interest cost which has been capitalized. That's it. These are the various questions that were asked in the examinations in the past, and questions which have been given in ICAI material also, and some of the suggested answers which were given by ICAI and RTPs given by ICAI also. So mostly the questions from accounting standard 16 will be similar to these type of questions. Practice them very well, understand the provisions of the standard very well, and improve the practice of writing the answer in theoretical text form. Lot of times people think I will do fantastic in the exam directly. It may not be easy. You have to practice it number of times. You can go to the suggested type of answers or RTP answers that ICAI gives. They will give vast answers. You don't have to write that much, but you have to understand you need to use good words and good sentence formation, and paragraphs have to be structured very well. That structuring will not come automatically in the main exams. That has to be practiced also, not just numbers on paper. Text on paper is also very important. With more practice on the paper, whether it is numbers or text, we become more comfortable in the main exam. Otherwise, in the main exam, we will write something which may be making sense also, but still we may not be getting the marks that we deserve, because our brain has too many things to tell, but we could not express them in the exams. How can we express? Suddenly we have an art of expression on the day of exam improved? Not possible. So we need to practice that also. Not only the numbers, but also the text based conclusions and application of the standard, how to structure the answer. Practice them number of times. That will make answering the accounting standards questions very comfortable in the main exam. And let me once again remind, accounting standards is minimum 20 marks. First compulsory question is always accounting standards question only. And if we structure the answers well, show the calculations well, present the answer very well, and conclusion has to be shown very prominently. If these presentation issues are taken care of, in addition to understanding, remembering, and actually applying the concepts which the accounting standards have told, if these things are applied, getting full marks out of that 20 is not really unachievable thing. Lot of times earlier also many students have achieved almost 18, 19 or sometimes 20 out of 20 also with this following of good techniques of presentation. But presentation comes later. Without the essence being correct, super presentation is not going to give us any marks. So definitely care has to be taken on both the aspects, concepts also, understanding also, at the same time presentation also. For concepts, we need to read and listen and understand well. For presentation, we need to practice well. That is the effort that is required for excelling in this topic of accounting standards and getting maximum marks from this segment of the paper, which is very, very scoring. We have to use that opportunity for obtaining best marks. Fine then. With that, we'll conclude accounting standards. Particularly in this session, what we have discussed is accounting standard 16. We'll meet in another class with some other topic. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Thank you very much.